That is so sad.
I know, like 5 chickens had to die just so she could look that stupid.
Josie was like such a babe.
Huh? You probably can't tell because you're too dense.
Like, totally.
But people came that, like, did not RSVP. So I was, like, totally bugging.
Hey, maybe there's, like, a sorority you could, like, join instead, like.
You know, if you had come to a rush party, I would have at least been nice to you.
Why can't the English learn to speak?
This has bothered me since I was a kid and being made to feel unworthy because I spoke a certain way. I mean, what better motivator than rage, right? It's kind of like the driving force behind so many of my videos. As of today, because I'm filming this on my birthday, because yes, I love you that much, please don't forget to give me a like and subscribe. I am now officially a 33-year-old lady that still uses the term like and expects to be taken seriously. The hatred for the term like, how people instantly assume certain things about people for using such a simple word and instantly dismiss opinions and lived experiences because of it, is a frustrating one to me. People are thought of as to be stupid, young, feminine, illiterate, uneducated, worthless, and worst of all, American. The flame of righteous justice got reignited with me when I was actually watching Nisha Valsara's story. This was a few weeks ago. She was saying how she has to edit out all of the times that she uses the phrase like, and how she felt awful for the way that she spoke. And I messaged her back straight away saying, do not let this sexist mindset get into your mind. It doesn't matter about the fact that she is an intelligent, well-rounded and amazing person. No, if she uses the term like, then she gets dismissed. And this is still a mentality that people hold on to today. Now, I've had some people, typically boomers, say that they can't listen to my videos because I use the term like, and it means that I'm stupid, and okay, like, thank you for the hate comment and engagement, which boosts me in the algorithm. Bye bye. I don't care. It just means that these people are shutting themselves off to others and meaning that they're getting this echo chamber as opposed to being able to see a wide variety of views and opinions on things simply because someone uses the phrase like, which has actually been done for a very long time. We're on about hundreds of years here, baby. So we're going to be unpacking this today because I'm not here for elitism. I think that comes across in my content pretty often. You either fall into the camp that uses the term like and then gets belittled for it, or you judge others. There is no real in between here because as much as you may want to believe it, we all have biases, and because this is so ingrained for generations at this point, you will have an opinion on this whether you think you do or not, because we may like to think that we're unbiased news sources. The news is not really unbiased, in case you're wondering. We're humans, we're flawed, but we can assess things and learn the why and try and unpick and unlearn stuff, which is what we do very often on this channel. So let's get on into it, shall we?
Condemned by every syllable she utters. By right, she should be taken out and hung.
The roots and hatred for this term come from a place that I admire just for the aesthetics in the holiday home serve, and that is the elite. I don't mean in like a conspiracy theory way at all. I'm on about the gatekeeping, academic, old money elite. That's what I'm on about specifically. The gaslight, gatekeep, and rarely a girl boss world of academia, of proper. The roots of the term like used as a conjunction actually stem as far back as the 14th century, for those wondering. Even your beloved Shakespeare used the phrase. In Twelfth Night, Valentine says to Cesario, if the Duke continued these favours towards you, Cesario, you are like to be much advanced. And the linguist Anthony Lieberman actually said that this version of like was being used as shorthand for likely, and maybe the beginnings of our contemporary usage. I'm just saying that one of your favourites even used the term. Consider the following phrase. All these three be like went together in 1741 OED. Take away the phrase be and you'll get a charming modern sentence. All these three like went together. Be like meant in all likelihood. Using the phrase as a quotative compartmentalizer, which is something that you and I both do.
I thought like that was really interesting to me, and I was like, ooh, yes, we're going here. But I guess
when you say like what the movie wanted to say, I don't even know if the movie said a whole lot about any of this. Like, it's kind of like, here is the harm or danger or like
Apparently, that's
unacceptable!
Even though this is simply quoting or paraphrasing someone. Clearly demonstrates that, and in actuality allows for people to paraphrase or provide emotional emphasis to a situation by approximating someone's tone and behaviour. But no, one must not use language such as this. especially not in order to be taken seriously, you see. Much like using the phrase well was scorned in the early 19th century, which was actually a thing, which was weird, some writers on language instructed writers to avoid well for many of the same reasons that they condemn the term like today. Ambrose Bierce, in his 1909 book Write It Right,
Ha, 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 ha.
so punny, he actually referred to well as a mere meaningless prelude to a sentence, and discourse markers had a hatred again amongst the elite. We are going into our English lesson here. A discourse marker is a word or phrase whose function is to organize discourse into segments. For example, well or I mean. I'm not trying to be disrespectful when I say that you sound stupid for using the term like. Actually, we all use these all the time. It's only when it comes to the specific word like that people get their hair stood up on end. The beatnik culture in the 1950s actually popularized the term more and was taken up by the lowest of the low, the newly formed teenagers, who are rebellious and didn't respect your rules, man.
How kind of you to let me come.
No, kind of you. It's like cup of tea, kind of you. Cup of tea. Say cup of tea.
Cup of tea.
No, a cup of tea.
One law firm in America sent a memo to its female employees only and told them, learn hard words. Stop saying like. The feminist in me is just rising up right now. Peter Mertens, an associate at the PR firm at Burson Cohn & Wolfe, has said, there is nothing that will lead you to being dismissed more quickly than a few too many likes during a meeting or on a call. And you know what? There's an app for that called Like So. It is specifically designed and recommended by businesses which listens to your speech and promises it can help you stop using the word like. Feminism in business is apparently just behaving and talking like a man. Great. If you just Google the term, you'll find so many websites dedicated specifically to getting people to stop using the phrase like, tricks of the trade to get you to stop, and why it seems so bad. And again, the reasons mostly come down to the fact it's around women and girls, females, whoever you want to call it. It is a typically feminine thing to do, because like can actually be used to capture emotions and get things across to people a lot better.
Colleen is like, here's the thing, I would take a bullet for Matt, but I genuinely don't know if he would for me. I don't know if he would be around for when things get tough.
We're all like, whoa, and then we were like, whoa, and then you were like, whoa.
These websites are there to help people get into college in order to sound smarter, because you can't possibly be intelligent if you use the word like. And most of these are specifically targeted at women. There's an insidious underbelly of a glass ceiling here, specifically built against women, the youth, and quote-unquote commoners like me. Much in the way that historically this has happened with how we use language, this has become so entrenched because who's taught by who? We are taught by the elders who then teach us to the next generation. It's become so entrenched that conformity and faking your own elitism is the way to get ahead in the workplace, which is something that I refuse to do now, but it's something that I definitely fell prey to, especially when I worked for the uber rich. I tried to be as proper as I could be, but at the same time, it's simply because of my social standing, my lack of education, and because I had interests in areas that were too feminine, and I was quite a feminine person. I still am, even if I've dolled it up a lot more for today to play justice to the Valley Girl. Simply for all of those reasons, I was trying my hardest to not be myself in order to appease who? People that genuinely wouldn't care about me anyway. Because why? I'd never be let into their gates. Not every story is like Erin Brockovich, sadly.
They may not be the most sophisticated people, but they do know how to divide, and $20 million isn't shit when you split it between them.
Erin.
Second of all, these people don't dream about being rich. They dream about being able to watch their kids swim in a pool without worrying that they'll have to have a hysterectomy at the age of 20. By the way, we had that water brought in special for you folks. Came from Well and Hinkley.
When someone uses the word, it's like having a cheese grater against your knee. It's creating this instant visceral reaction because, oh my god, realization, I've been listening to a stupid person. So let's talk about the real issue that people have with the term like, the Valley Girl.
I'm all these really great shoe stores. I love going into clothing stores and stuff. I like
A particular image comes to mind when people come across someone who uses the phrase like as a conjunction, a discourse marker, or a quotative term, especially if they do so often. This image is of a valley girl teen who likes to go shopping, do feminine things, and has nary between her head except for candy floss, of course. Which means that she's got nothing useful to say and therefore can be ignored as a stupid little consumer that just shops because that's all that people were reduced to in the 80s. Ugh, hate this. That Frank Zappa song really did a lot of damage. The Valley Girl is credited for using the term like as a quotative term, but evolving language is only okay when you're an old white man, obviously. Much like this, attitude towards Elle Woods is applied. In the movie, when she tried to conform, she failed, but when she was being herself and using her own knowledge and experience, wow, she actually succeeded and pinpointed the murderer correctly. But oh my god, no, we still haven't learned this lesson from a movie that is 22 years old. The sexism that is so rife bothers me so much. Yet we're still stuck in this way of thinking about people who talk a certain way or sound a certain way are less than. This is a hangover from 80s culture where mall rats were apparently prevalent, and it's another flavour of disdain for youth, in particular of girls and also to surfer dudes who use a similar language. Every generation hates the youth, right? In particular right now we're still hating on millennials even though we're like at midlife at this point. But I find it quite ironic because the people that were actually the mall rats and the surfer dudes back then with all of this mentality around them, and now the Gen X, who are the managers in business now, who are still instilling this hatred for the term like onto everyone around them and still telling people that they sound stupid if they use the term. But you know why that happens? Because they were taught by the boomers who hated the term like before, and of course the boomers were also the beatniks. It's so weird to me. There's a particular flavour of sexism and infantilization here which really bothers me, because when people decide to look a certain way, like if you like makeup and all the other stuff that I tend to like, then that means that you are a bit stupid and that means that you're childish, and people want to cover you in cotton wool and don't think that your opinions are valid, much like a child, and that really bothers me. Particularly as this mostly targets women and girls whose interests are heavily monetized in order to bolster capitalism, yet mocked by people for being superficial, even down to the way that they speak. Their lived experiences are tossed aside because they don't sound intelligent enough to, I don't know, have feelings, be knowledgeable, have lived experience that could actually be valuable? No, of course not, because they haven't done anything with their life other than shop, silly. That's the sort of mentality that people have when someone uses the phrase like in whatever way. Just because someone is knowledgeable about different things to you doesn't mean that they're worthless. No one can know everything, and I think that my audience, you definitely understand this and you'll understand where I'm coming from here. This notion that girliness and the friendliness that comes along with speaking in certain patterns doesn't belong in business just keeps a very patriarchal standard and rigid hierarchy that I'm personally not comfortable with, and being too friendly or feminine means that you can't make hard business decisions or be savvy with money or have any intelligence at all. When actually women have been amazing business people, there's just this stale mindset that is still stuck around, even in 2022 now.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
Why the hell can't we move on? Much like AAVE is stigmatized against, which many people have covered, and I'll link a couple of videos down below for you. Like for example, when someone pronounces ask as X because they speak in a different way, that means that they're stupid and don't know how to talk, when in actuality, that's not the case at all. Shanspeare's got an amazing video on this and I'll link that down below. There are many people that have covered this, obviously being me. This is not my space, it's my space to just bolster others so that you can discover their work instead. The hatred for the term like, I feel, has a broad global spectrum where all races, I think, that speak English can relate to this. But of course, as always, do correct me if I'm wrong. It's too personable to be professional, too feminine to be taken seriously, and despite the fact it's a word that's been used for literally hundreds of years, it's considered to be a juvenile fad not allowed in conversation with intelligent people. We haven't moved on because the torch of oppression passes from one generation that taught the other generation how to be, who pass it on to the other one. They create the frameworks that people grow up in, they create the comedy for people, they create everything for people to look at, laugh at, and gain their social cues from. So when you're only seeing people that use the phrase like as being stupid, that just gets ingrained to people as well. I've even had to catch myself doing this too, because I'm on Instagram quite often and I watch it on silent. Another reason why you should use the auto captions, please, because not only does it help people that are hearing impaired or deaf, it also helps people whose first language may not be English. So I'm just saying, for everyone's benefit, auto captions, it's a button that you press. So I follow a whole lot of influencers that I gain a lot from, and when I actually listen with sound on, my goodness, and I hear that they're talking with a stereotypical Valley Girl accent, I catch myself because I immediately still think oh, I don't think that they were this stupid. And that's me, someone that has hated this since I was a child, because it just gets hammered home to us so much that anyone that talks like this is worthless and stupid. And that's another reason why I think it's important for us to step back and actually assess why, because Shakespeare was doing it. Come on. What more do you need in terms of like validation for the English language than Shakespeare? Maybe this has opened up your mind as well. Maybe this has helped to validate you if you also speak kind of similarly to me and you use the phrase like too, because I'm sure that you've either faced a stigma against it or you've had stigma against other people. Like I said, I don't really believe that there's a middle ground here, because we all have this prejudice. If you did make it all the way to the end of this video, in honor of the Valley Girl, who I recreated the most girly look that I could possibly think of, please leave the sparkling heart emoji and the sunshine emoji, because I think the Valley Girl got way too much hate in the 80s, and that is still a hangover that we're dealing with today, 40 years later. When you put it into that perspective, maybe we should evolve a little bit. I think we can. So next week will be part 3 of Buffy, and then the week after that I think I may be doing the art and capitalism video that has been also highly requested, unless something else like wild happens that I want to make a video on. You never know, but that's kind of how it's going to be. It's going to be Buffy regular until the show Buffy is done, and I won't be doing as many long videos because we're heading into summer and it's really hot already. Oh, and don't worry, I'm also going to be doing the Christmas movie tier lists this year, so I'm watching them now. I've got a lot of thoughts. Anyway, thank you lovelies so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves. This may be a bit different because I feel like I went a little bit too extra. Is this too much? It's kind of like Christmas vomited behind me, and I'm sorry, I think I got a little bit of my too much gene going on. So yeah, anyway, I'm sure that you'll tell me we're on the internet where opinions are rife, including my own.